being a mother and a nurse at the same time. One, these are two different roles that require full commitment, that require empathy, that require a lot of time. So for the days I'm on duty, like I'm supposed to work, of course, I wake up very early in the morning. I prepare myself and make sure that the kids are prepared. And then I drive to work. At work, my routine is usually a bit tight. Start by receiving the morning report at the hospital, and then depending on the priorities of that day, I take off my shift. But it's a mixture of everything. I do ward work where I take care of patients, real patients, have an interaction with them. On a day-to-day, you find very different patients. You find patients who are desperate, pain, who are arrogant and entitled. You find patients who are abusive, patients who are needy, all sorts of patients. Recently, there is one who had some bit of long waiting time, and they came to me and told me they would fire us. But considering the data that come in, we receive more than 300 patients on that day. So if someone is waiting for probably an hour or two, that is expected. And with the threats, some of them are not as serious as they sound. My analysis to the situation is that usually these patients are desperate. Some of them are angry and hungry at the same time. So your response should be very empathetic. First, step in their shoes and know what they are going through. Some of them are in pain. Some of them probably have been bounced over and over and have been standing for some time. So I try to be as empathetic as much as possible and not overreact. There are patients who are abusive. They will literally abuse you. Then there are those that are very entitled. They will command, they will threaten. But if you're doing something that's right, you know your rights, you know their rights. If you're within the rights, you don't have to panic about anything. And if they're getting very aggressive, you have a right to report. And maybe the security people can intervene. But yeah, I get worked up from the hospital, and my journey from hospital to home is usually a minimum of around 2 hours. And then when I get home, which is usually between 8 to 9, that's the normal time, usually 8 to 9. Sometimes I go beyond. If it's rare that I find the kids awake, and that's very hurting. But a few times I found them awake, I start by sitting with them to ask how their day was, if they found any bit of challenges with their day, and that's when they tell me about maybe the kids that have beaten them at school or the teacher. If it's a teacher who has beaten them at school, I don't usually take it so far. I may try to explore what exactly happened and how hard did this teacher beat you. And if they tell me, I tell them to illustrate if it's a slap, if it's a big slap. But none has ever illustrated a big slap. It's usually a little tap, and they seem to be overwhelmed or overreacting. I just tell them, you know what, that's normal. Even mommy once in a while can give you that kind of tapping. I ask them if they've done their homework. Usually the boy is given homework daily. The girl is usually given homework on Fridays, so that one is not my worry. The boy is in P2, he's a bit independent, so you find that he has done his homework, and unless there's something very critical, usually his homework is done. So my work is to just go through it. If he has done it well, if he needs any bit of corrections, then that's when we do it. being at the ward, I'm so much predisposed to a lot of microorganisms, a lot of infections. This one is coughing this side, the other one is diarrheating, the other one is vomiting, the other one is sneezing. So for me to protect my children, I consider that the best I can do is to take a shower before I actually see any of them. I know there is that urge of you wanting to be hugged. When they come, they want to hug you. But sometimes if they've not seen me, I just escape to the bathroom, and then after the bathroom, and then I can socialize. So their routine, I prefer them to sleep early by around 9. I want them in bed. Uh, Usually, if possible, we are able to pray with them. We pray with them before they go to sleep, and they usually lead the prayers. Then, after that, I catch up with home in case there are any things that are not yet done, especially regarding the baby, the preparation for bed. Usually, that's something that I usually take on. But so many times I find that most of the work is done. So my work is to cross-check with the things that are not yet done and maybe polish up some things. Usually, my baby sleeps a bit late. So I try my best to sleep at around 11. Sometimes I go up to midnight. Sometimes I have to wake up in the night for feedings. But usually these days I wake up once. Initially, I would wake up even 3 times to feed when he was a bit younger. And so you would literally sleep late, wake up in the night, wake up early to go and work. So you're literally sleep deprived. You reach work when you have headaches, you're stressed out. But I try as much as possible to balance. If, for example, if I'm stressed at home, I try as much as possible not to transfer that bit of stress and anger at the workplaces, because my patients really need sympathy and empathy. Even the people you work with need that, because you don't know what they are going through at home. Even when I get home, even when I'm worked out at work, I try to put the things of work at work and the things of home at home. It's hard to compartmentalize these things, but the moment you try, it gets a bit easy and it's less frustrating. Otherwise, you carry on anger from home, then you transfer it on your fellow workmates, you transfer it on the patients. It compromises your work ethics. So uh, I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm happy as a nurse. I give it my best. Whatever I do, I try to give it my best. I've been at the bedside so many times and I've given it my best. I've been at leadership positions, and even then, I try to give it my best. I try to listen both with my external and inner ears and process what this person is actually communicating without saying it.